From the quiet hilltop monasteries to simple corner temples, Zen monks cultivate a way of life that transforms the everyday into an ongoing meditation. And the first daily practice at the heart of their rhythm is seated meditation, zazen, the anchor of awareness in which the monk sits in stillness, often for 20, 30, or more minutes. Cross-legged, spine upright yet relaxed, hands forming the cosmic mudra as the breath moves through body and mind. Each inhalation and exhalation, creating an invitation to return home to the present moment. This practice is not about achieving a particular state, but about relinquishing striving altogether. Watching thoughts arise and pass, like clouds across a limitless sky, so that the monk becomes the open space in which thoughts, emotions, and sensations can settle and dissolve, revealing the luminous clarity that underlies every moment. And you, too, can adopt this timeless discipline by designating even a few minutes each day to sit quietly, to feel the weight of your body supported by the earth, to notice how each breath enters with ease and leaves without force, to observe the mind's ceaseless commentary without judgment, and to gently re-anchor attention whenever distraction arises, thereby gradually training the heart to rest in stillness rather than roving through endless mental landscapes. The second practice is mindful work, samu, which transforms every chore, sweeping leaves from the courtyard, cleaning utensils, preparing simple meals, into an act of meditation in motion, where each movement is conducted with full attention, each gesture imbued with gratitude, and each task carried out not for the sake of efficiency alone, but as a way of honoring the interconnected web of life. Through mindful work, Zen monks dissolve the barrier between practice time and daily life, recognizing that sweeping is not separate from sitting, chopping vegetables is not separate from chanting, and washing dishes is not separate from practicing compassion. And you can integrate this approach by bringing the same awareness to your own routine activities, perhaps noticing how your feet feel as you walk from room to room, feeling the texture of water as you wash your hands, focusing on the rhythm of your breath as you fold laundry. And by doing so, you discover that peace does not arise only when you withdraw from the world, but in the simple act of fully inhabiting it. The third cornerstone of the monk's daily life is mindful eating, orayoki, or community meal practice, where each morsel of rice, each sip of tea, and each serving of vegetables is received, consumed, and offered with deep reverence and gratitude, accompanied by silent bows before and after the meal, to acknowledge the countless causes and conditions that brought this food to the table, from the sun and rain that nourished the fields to the hands of those who harvested and prepared it. And in this ritual, the monk learns not to take nourishment for granted, to see food as a sacred gift rather than a mere commodity, and to cultivate a profound sense of interconnectedness and compassion. You can bring this practice into your own life by slowing down at mealtime, noticing the colors, aromas, and flavors of each bite, offering a silent expression of gratitude to the farmers, the soil, and the elements that made this meal possible, chewing slowly so that your mind becomes absorbed in the sensation rather than lost in distraction, listening to the body's signals of hunger and fullness, and thereby transforming nourishment into a deeply grounding meditation that nourishes both body and spirit. When these three practices, seated meditation, mindful work, and mindful eating, are woven together, they form an unbroken thread of presence that runs through every waking hour of the monk's day. The moment the body rises from the cushion, the heart bows in gratitude for the new breath. Each sweeping stroke, each wash of water, each stirring of a pot becomes an extension of Zazen, a living expression of the mind's uncluttered clarity. Every meal becomes a ceremony of connection, an act of offering not just to the body, but to the entire web of life that sustains us. As you begin to integrate these three practices into your own life, you may notice subtle but powerful shifts. Your restless mind may begin to settle, like layers of sediment in a riverbed. Your hurried actions may find a slower, more deliberate pace. Your relationship to food may evolve from mechanical consumption to an act of reverence and gratitude. And through these shifts, you cultivate a ground of peace that does not depend on external circumstances. For true tranquility arises not when the world around you changes, but when the mind learns to stay present, to yield like water rather than clench like rock, and to rest in the spaciousness that is your true nature. Zen monks remind us that the path to awakening is found not in grand gestures, but in the gentle unfolding of daily life, moment by moment, breath by breath. And you too can awaken by simply returning to these three practices each day, sitting, working, and eating with full awareness, so that every aspect of your life becomes a teacher, guiding you out of confusion, dissolving the barriers between self and other, and illuminating the profound peace that has always been here, patiently waiting for your attention. As we continue along this path of Zen awareness, we come to understand that these three practices are not isolated rituals, but rather interwoven expressions of a deeper commitment to presence, humility, and simplicity. Seated meditation, or Zazen, is more than sitting still. It is a mirror that reflects the nature of our mind. As the breath flows in and out, we see the restless nature of thought, the way we cling to desires and resist discomfort. Yet in watching it all, without interfering, without judgment, we begin to dissolve the illusion of control. The monk does not aim to escape the mind, but to befriend it, to witness it as one might witness a leaf drifting along a stream. And in time, you too may find that the more you observe without grasping, the more the noise softens, and in its place arises a quiet clarity, a presence that doesn't need to speak. This awareness naturally flows into mindful work, for when the mind is at ease, the body follows with grace. The hands that clean a floor do so not with resentment or haste, but with full presence, and in this presence the task is no longer mundane, but sacred. The monk does not work to finish the job, but to be the work itself, to become one with broom and dust, with water and cloth. In this way, even the simplest task becomes a gate to awakening. You too may find that when you give yourself fully to one task at a time, without rushing to the next, without wishing to be elsewhere, your heart begins to open in unexpected ways. The third practice, mindful eating, reveals itself anew each day. It is a practice of listening to the body, to the earth, to the subtle joy of nourishment. The monk eats in silence, not as deprivation, but as appreciation. Each bite is a universe, a convergence of soil, sun, effort, and generosity. When you take your meals in this way, you may notice how quickly life moves, how easily the sacred is overlooked. But with each conscious bite, each silent thank you, you return to the present moment, to your body, to life itself. These practices, simple, quiet, and available to all, are the foundation upon which the temple of awakening is built. And though they may seem small, they are vast in their potential. When practiced consistently, they transform the practitioner, not through sudden enlightenment, but through the gentle erosion of ego, the softening of resistance, and the deepening of compassion. The monk knows that peace is not something you find, it is something you remember. It is always within reach, buried under layers of distraction and conditioning. And through daily practice, you peel away these layers, bit by bit, until what remains is something deeply familiar. The sound of the breath, the rhythm of the body, the beauty of this moment, and that, Zen teaches, is enough. In the quiet rhythm of a Zen monastery, life unfolds, not in haste or noise, but in deliberate simplicity. And within that simplicity lie profound practices that shape the monk's day, and can shape ours too, if we are willing to listen. The first thing a Zen monk practices daily is sitting meditation, or zazen, the cornerstone of Zen life. In this stillness, the monk sits without striving, without grasping for enlightenment or fleeing from discomfort. It is simply sitting, observing breath, sensations, and thoughts without judgment, becoming aware of awareness itself. From this stillness, we begin to see the truth of impermanence, the nature of suffering, and the arising of the ego. But meditation does not end when the bell rings. The second practice is mindfulness in every act. When eating, eat. When walking, walk. There is no separation between spiritual life and daily life. Washing a bowl becomes a sacred act. Pouring tea becomes a ritual of presence. The third daily practice is intentional simplicity. Zen monks live with few possessions, not from denial, but from clarity. They know that clutter in the home mirrors clutter in the mind. Simplicity reveals what is essential, and in that clarity, we find peace. But these are only the beginning. As we delve deeper, we see other daily rituals that may not seem spiritual at first, but are infused with presence. One is walking meditation, known as kinhin, where monks walk slowly and attentively, in synchrony with the breath, learning to carry the stillness of zazen into motion. Then there is chanting sutras, vocalizing ancient teachings not just to recite, but to embody. The vibration of voice becomes a path, the rhythm of chant, a bridge between intellect and heart. Bowing or gassho is another daily ritual, practiced dozens, even hundreds of times a day, not as a symbol of submission, but of humility, gratitude, and interbeing. With each bow, the monk says, I let go of self-centeredness. I return to now. I honor all beings. Then comes samu, work practice, sweeping floors, tending gardens, preparing food, all done mindfully. In Zen, there is no chore too small to be sacred. Work is not something to finish, but something to fully enter. Through samu, the mind becomes still not through escape, but through total presence. Silence is also a powerful teacher. Monks often spend large parts of the day in noble silence, not just refraining from speech, but listening deeply. To silence the mouth is to open the ears of the heart. In the absence of noise, subtle truths emerge. Study of Dharma texts, too, is part of the day, not as a means to collect knowledge, but to deepen insight, reading slowly, reflecting, letting the words of the Buddha enter like drops of water into parched soil. And throughout all this, the monk returns again and again to gratitude. Before meals, there is thanks for the labor of countless beings, farmers, cooks, earth, and sun. Gratitude becomes not a feeling, but a state of awareness, a lens through which to meet every moment. In all of this, we begin to see that Zen practice is not about adding something to life, but about stripping away what obscure what is already here. You do not have to live in a monastery to live this way. You can begin now, with one breath, with one step, with one act of attention. When you practice zazen, you meet yourself without illusion. When you live simply, you begin to see how little you need to be whole. When you bow, you acknowledge that awakening is not about rising above, but returning to the ground. In chanting, you remember that the voice is a bridge to the infinite. When you work mindfully, you make peace with the ordinary. When you walk in silence, you learn to hear the teachings of the wind, the sound of leaves, the pulse of the earth. And when you give thanks truly and deeply, you realize that nothing is missing. These are not ancient rituals locked in temples. They are invitations. And if you listen with your heart, you will hear them calling you home, to your breath, your body, your life, just as it is. And so, the practice of Zen continues, not bound by temples or robes, but unfolding through our awareness, wherever we are. After the bowing and the walking and the chanting comes the most subtle practice of all, the practice of non-grasping. Zen monks cultivate the art of letting go, not only of possessions, but of beliefs, expectations, and attachments to outcomes. They learn to meet each moment without needing it to be different. When joy arises, they do not cling. When sorrow arrives, they do not push away. They do not ask life to entertain or comfort them. They simply bow to what is. This daily release of craving and resistance allows the heart to open without fear. And in that openness, another practice emerges, listening, not to respond or solve, but to understand. In conversation, the Zen practitioner listens as though the entire universe is speaking through the other. With no agenda, no interruption, no rush, listening becomes a spiritual act, and every person a teacher. From this deep listening, compassion grows, not as sentiment, but as a recognition of shared being. You are not separate from the suffering you witness. And so, another practice arises naturally, compassionate action. A Zen monk helps not to feel good or be praised, but because it is the natural expression of wisdom. If someone is cold, offer warmth. If someone is hurting, offer presence. These acts, however small, ripple into the world as the living Dharma. And still, we must return to solitude. Solitude is not loneliness in Zen. It is the field where the noise of the world dissolves, and the voice of the inner teacher can be heard. Every day, even for a few minutes, monks retreat inward, not to escape, but to remember. From this sacred solitude, the next practice arises, walking in nature. Zen is not separate from the earth. It is grounded in it. The monk walks through forests, gardens, mountains, bowing to trees, smiling at clouds. Nature teaches presence, impermanence, and non-resistance. The falling leaf does not protest to the wind. The stone does not hurry. The stream flows around every obstacle. The lesson is clear. Peace is found not in control, but in harmony with the unfolding. These truths become even more vibrant when monks engage in calligraphy or art, not for perfection or display, but as another form of meditation. The brushstroke is not just ink on paper. It is breath made visible. Every mark reflects the state of mind, and so to paint, to write, to create, becomes a practice of presence, of honesty, of being with what is. In this way, Zen practice touches everything. Even laughter and play are part of the path. Monks do not reject joy. They laugh deeply, not from sarcasm, but from clarity. When the self is seen through, humor arises effortlessly. Joy is not chased, but discovered in the ordinary. And so, another daily practice unfolds, reverence for the now. With each breath, the monk bows inwardly to this moment. Nothing is too mundane. Every grain of rice, every flicker of candlelight, every creak of floorboard is sacred when met with full attention. This is why they rise early, not to perform, but to begin the day in stillness. The dawn becomes a ritual of awakening not just of the body, but of spirit. In silence, with mindful movement, they welcome the light. And when night falls, they close the day with reflection, not judgment. What did I learn? Where was I present? Where was I lost? This gentle inquiry is not about perfection. It is about returning, always returning. Because Zen is not a straight path. It is circular, like the Enso, the Zen circle, open, incomplete, alive. And in that circle, you will find the truth, that everything you need for awakening is already here, in your breath, in your body, in your ordinary life. The practices of Zen monks are not foreign. They are familiar once you see clearly. You can sit with your breath. Oh, you can walk with presence. You can bow in humility. You can cook with love. You can listen with your whole being. You can rest in silence. And you can let go. Always let go. Let go of who you think you should be. Let go of needing answers. Let go of rushing to somewhere else. This is the secret the monks carry not in words, but in how they live. The sacred is not hidden. It is hidden by our inattention. And once you begin to pay attention, everything changes. The wind speaks. The tea sings. The stone teaches. You do not need to retreat to a monastery to know peace. You need only to wake up to this moment, to this breath, to this life. As the Zen masters say, when you walk, just walk. When you sit, just sit. Above all, don't wobble. In this unwavering attention, you will find what the monks have always found, not in escape, but in the heart of daily life itself. If this message brought you calm, this space is always here for you. Subscribe, return, and walk this quiet path with us, one breath at a time. Until next time, remember, health is the greatest gift.